So here I have a couple of decks, one light and one dark, and you might have noticed there's a common phrase on each of them, rapid fire. The idea here was to use repeating blasters, repeating weapons. They were designed initially before I understood or knew that when you fire repeatedly, and there's something that allows you to fire for free, by rule in the game, only the first shot is free. Each one after that still costs its normal may fire repeatedly cost. So if it costs 2 to fire and then 1 for each additional shot, and something makes it free, the first shot's free, but each one after that is not free. So that definitely affected some games I played. I think the light side version of the deck, and I think by the time I made the dark side one we knew that, but it was a bit of a bummer, and I couldn't let go of the idea, so these are a couple of versions that I hope can at least lay down a lot of shots. And there's no real reason why I chose this objective for the deck other than it lets me get out Cloud City sites and their battlegrounds, so hopefully it gets the opponent coming to you a little bit. But strike planning to get generals. This one's pretty important. Devices and effects on a character go to the used pile when they're lost. And here's the key one to the deck. I take a weapon with this card, and then anytime a battle is initiated, I can immediately deploy that weapon. So here's the weapon. It's not an ideal one necessarily, but it does fire repeatedly, so costs 2 force to deploy, and it targets using 1. You got to spend 2 force to fire repeatedly. But there's a couple of good characters, like Corporal Midge. In fact, I have 2 copies of him since he's adding 2 to each weapon destiny. There's a good chance I'm going to hit a lot of characters. Also got Lieutenant Grieve to add 1 to each weapon destiny and make them forfeit -3 if I hit them. And he also adds 1 to each weapon destiny. What's nice is the mercenary armor, so I deploy the corporal or one of his buddies down, put mercenary armor on him, so blasters deploy and fire for free. So going back to the blaster, if I understand the rule correctly, and there's a chance I still don't, although I think I read it pretty well. So it's free to deploy the blaster, the first one is free, and then each subsequent shot I do have to use 2 force, but hopefully I have a couple of tricks for that, that'll work. Portable scanner to help me get some of those devices back. This is a lot lower, what should I say, a lot less of a risk to deploy devices on people with this card on table, because when they're lost they go used. Just gotta hope they don't get captured. That's a bummer. But blaster efficiency, if I have a really critical destiny, really critical weapon shot that I need to hit, you can add 3 to the destiny draw there. And careful planning is kind of big here, being able to draw destiny and activate force when a battle's just been initiated. So if they initiate against me, I can draw destiny, maybe activate an extra 3 or 4 force, and then fire a couple more times than I would have otherwise. But I also have, and Luke's not bad in this deck, with him being a scout, adding 1 to each of his weapon destiny draws. A few more generals. This is a nice card to know exactly what destiny I have coming up, and also lets me retrieve a force. But yeah, knowing exactly what destiny's on there, not having unlimited destiny draws, it's nice to know exactly what I'm going to draw, so that way I can, if I have a high destiny on top, and if it's a 6, I can use that to shoot at the Emperor, whereas if I have a low destiny, I'll want to use that shot to shoot at a Stormtrooper, and just make sure I hit as many as I can. Take some effects into hand with this. Not a bad card for stopping their interrupts. Oh, and this card has been errated, but I won't remove it from this deck since as soon as I kind of froze these decks at a certain point. I think as soon as my buddy and I started to play in tournaments, we just kind of left these decks alone. But yeah, this card doesn't really exist anymore, and I suppose from the Legacy era I could put in something like Let the Wookiee Win, but these were a lot cheaper. Rescuing the Clouds. Cloud City common versus, or uncommon versus a New Hope rare 1. Rebel leadership to get the generals. I do have some space in here. Oh, and a couple of Hoojixes, 3 Hoojixes actually, which is pretty important because lots of times I have a single guy at a site who's just trying to kill trying to shoot as many enemy characters as possible. A couple of capital starships, basically just trying to control Bespin's system, or at least occupy it without getting wiped from the system. And then a few more Cloud City sites. So hopefully I can go into a battle and, I don't know, shoot 4 guys and Hujix out of it and live and keep surviving and disrupting the enemy plans. That's the idea with that one. The dark side one's a bit more complicated. But definitely some similar themes. So starting here with Jabba's Prize, and I guess one thing I like about this is it's not like the light side necessarily wants to come fight Jabba's Prize, but there is some incentive to come after it. So special delivery allows me to deploy an effect, so I can basically pull as many effects as I want, and there's some pretty nifty stuff here. So if opponent's card hit by your bounty hunter leaves table, stack it here face down, and your bounty hunters are power and defense value plus X, where X equals the number of cards stacked here. And with the idea of this deck, similar to the light side one, is I'm trying to hit as many things as I can, so having a pretty big stack here would be pretty advantageous for that. This is exactly like the Rebel Gunrunner, the one I chose as Boba's Blast Rifle. Being able to fire repeatedly for 1 force each time is not bad at all. Same idea here. Any devices that are on a character that's lost, those devices go used. And once per turn, making a target forfeit -2 and causing an opponent to lose force. Plus my bounty hunters are defense value +1 and forfeit +2, so pretty hard to hit them once I get rolling after one battle of just hitting a bunch of guys. Scum and Villainy to retrieve when I initiate, although I suppose it's a bit of a defensive deck. And this is a good one to put. Maybe I should consider putting something like that in my light side deck, but I don't know if it prevents against capturing. But just it would stink to have Boba Fett in a battle, and he's about to fire 15 times or whatever, and then suddenly he gets hit with a lightsaber and then Clash of Sabers or something like that. And here's the big one. So my force drains are +2 where I have Jabba's Prize. So the idea, hopefully, is for them to want to do something about that and then just start laying down laser fire. A jetpack firing weapons for free, that's a big one. Add to my weapon destinies. This one's fun, which I put it on Evasion and Ponda Baba to make them a bounty hunter. And then I don't know if I have... No, so I still have Boba Fett's gun in there, but Boba Fett's gun on them, shooting everybody, and then leaving one opponent's character. So I got at least I got 3 of them in the deck, so that makes sense. But just trying to get as many guys hit with them as possible. Then you operate on them, in quotes, I think it is, yeah. Well, it doesn't really call it being operation in this text, but in the original one it did. Anyways, if somebody's hit, you can make them immediately lost. Couple of Bobas here. Him making characters forfeit 0 when you hit them could be pretty useful. But some useful aliens. Able to recycle with a couple cards. Similar to the light side deck, being able to draw Destiny and activate that much force just to get a few more shots in. Adding a Battle Destiny with Jabba's Through with you. Being able to put a card from hand on top of the reserve deck, so if I have a Destiny card in hand, I know exactly what my first weapon Destiny is going to be. Not super high Destinies in this deck, but when you're adding a lot to the weapon Destiny, it ends up being pretty easy to hit most things. Plus Boba can shoot vehicles, which is nice. So that's the dark side deck. They're very similar in terms of trying to get a blaster on somebody, then firing as many shots as you can. I guess this one might not have Gix in it. I guess I didn't really notice at the time. So this one may be a bit more defensive. Maybe you do have to focus on having some characters to absorb and outpowering. But then again, if you have Dr. Evazan and Ponda Baba and you're operating on people, there's a good chance you're going to survive. Plus with all the bonus to defense value, assuming you can get one round of hitting a bunch of guys, there's a good chance that they're not going to hit you and make you forfeit 0. So that's the dark side one, pretty similar to the light side one. They were fun to make and fun to play, although after I read the rule about firing for free not applying to repeating, they were a bit of a bummer relative to that. But still there's a good chance that you can get at least one battle where you just open fire with Boba Fett and take out everybody, even if you go down with them. Just a couple more decks coming down the wire. Hope you tune in for those videos, and thanks for watching this one.